I call upon Cllr Robert Alden to move the First Amendment.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I rise to move the Conservative Group amendment to the Council Budget and Business Plan 2015. I'd just like to say thank you to all the security staff for their efforts today. If you turn to page 114, 117 of the Council Budget Book, you will see the tables for revenue grants for this year and last year. The overall figure gives a reduction total grant funding of £138 million next year. However, this figure includes £42 million, which is now given directly to academies rather than to the Council. You must always remember that's money not taken away from Birmingham, but actually still being spent helping our children across the city. When you take this adjustment into account, you can see that total grant reductions this year are actually down £96 million. Or to put it another way, total grants, restricted and non-restricted, are down 4.7%. As I said earlier, we've debated whether this is right endlessly this year, and we have all agreed we want Birmingham to have more money. However, when discussing it, we must remain clear about what the current situation is, and we must remain positive about what Birmingham needs, not negative about being unfairly treated. For those who are interested, on those same pages, they're very enlightening. You can see the changes to grants have been things like an extra £11 million for public health, £2 million for troubled families, or £5 million for care. But let us be clear, today is about the Council's £3 billion budget and what the Council votes to decide to spend money on. This debate is not about how much money the City Council is given by the Government. Our amendment provides some background information on spending per dwelling, but the reality is, over the last 2 years, we've spent much time in this chamber debating how much government grants we should get. And as I say, this debate today is about what we already have received and the choices we are going to make with regarding that. Choices. It's important we just take a few minutes to grasp just what that means for every single member in this chamber. Sir Albert has told us we have no choice but to vote for what he has put before us. Just as Sir Albert said earlier when considering the HR report, that we have to make these changes, or they'll be taken away from us. We will hear today from a procession of Cabinet members all saying that they had no choice in what they will do today, and that members of this chamber have no choice but to vote for the motion Sir Albert has moved. Rather paints a picture of 120 yes men and women having been elected to the Council, as if we should not expect to exercise any free will. So to those Labour backbenchers who raised concerns with the Council's budget, but were told by Sir Albert that they had no choice, I say to you, you always have a choice. Your residents elected you to express that power of choice on their behalf, not to simply say yes, but to stand up for what you and I know to be true. I say to backbench councillors, we should listen to the words of American businessman William Stone, who commented, "You always do what you want to do. This is true with every act. You may say that you had to do something or that you were forced to, but actually, whatever you do by choice. Only you have the power to choose for yourself." Of course, to choose also requires us to be brave. And while the leadership of this Council has chosen the easy path, I know that on these benches there are brave men and women who are willing to stand up for what is right, no matter what the leader of the Council might tell us today. Today is that time. Today you can choose to put your residents first. So to those backbenchers on the Labour group, perhaps being fed up with being ignored by Sir Albert, I say listen to what we are proposing. Think about what we are saying and make that choice to put your residents first, to put our Birmingham first. Lord Mayor, we are told when preparing the budget and any amendments, we must have due consideration to the issues raised in consultation. It must inform our choices, if you will. Therefore, when we look at our amendments, we can see the first section deals with what we reinstate from the saving options put before the Council today. Page 83 of the report highlights the impact on services for people with disabilities, and mental health problems was a key concern. Therefore, we have chosen to reinstate the STAR service and visual impairment services and the supporting people's budget in full, meaning the Council will not make any cuts to the services for physical and sensory disabilities. Sport pitches and playing pitches were raised in the consultation feedback, and we're choosing to listen to the public there. We'd reinstate the budget so no sports pitch had to close and no playing field had to be sold. Libraries have been a source of much contention, and today we put forward a choice to resolve it. Our library rescue plan would see the budget at the Library of Birmingham restored. It would see every suburban library in the city saved, and it would see an additional £2 million spent on improvements and maintenance to the suburban library network over the next 3 years. We would listen to the large online petition and comments around the future of the museum by protecting it for residents of Birmingham by restoring the removed budget. We choose to listen to the concerns raised at public meetings about the proposals to increase car park charges by cancelling those increases. The Council report states on page 84 that in light of late representations, the school crossing patrols savings would not be proceeded with this year. A funny choice of words for the Council to use. Members of the Council who campaigned in the King's Standing by-election last January will be well aware that it was a key plank of Councillor Gary Sandbrook's winning campaign, the fight to stop Sir Albert's Council axing school crossing patrols. Indeed, for those who missed that victory, the topic also formed a large part of his maiden speech to the Council in last year's budget debate. Clearly, from those choice of words in the budget report, Sir Albert and the Council chose to ignore the message from residents of King's Standing last February, who said loud and clear the Council must save school crossing patrols. Not to worry, Lord Mayor, though. Residents of King's Standing sent Sir Albert a second message in May of last year by electing Councillor Ron Storer to the Council. Finally, 87 days before we go to an election again, Sir Albert has chosen to listen and cancelled the cuts to school crossing patrols for this year. Of course, that is the reality. Chosen to cancel the axing of further school crossing patrols for the next year. A 12-month reprieve, no doubt. I am sure that the Labour Group meeting was told to celebrate this like a victory, for it was the best that they will get. Well, today I can confirm to this chamber that councillors can choose not only to cancel the axing, but also by supporting our amendment, you can reinstate all of the school crossing patrols that the council decided to axe last year. We have chosen to put an additional £475,000 in to both save the current school crossing patrols and to fill all the vacant posts. Our budget amendment is choosing to put children's safety first and foremost. Finally, when looking at the changes we are making in light of the savings proposals, we'll listen to the concerns raised about charges to business improvement districts. The Council has decided no matter the size of the bid, and we must remember in Birmingham, unlike any other city, we have lots of suburban bids which are small, that a charge will be made for collecting the bid levy at the same time as the business rates. This shopper's tax, if you will, would hit smaller business improvement districts much more than the main city centre one. For instance, if we look at Erdington, my area, Labour's shopping tax will cost the Erdington bid £24,000 each year, or 28% of the entire year's budget for Erdington High Street. That is the extra cleaning and community events that the bid puts on wiped out, right there. That's the effect of Labour's shoppers' tax. To put this into perspective, the Broad Street bid, which is 5 times the value of the Erdington bid, would be charged less money. Only 5% of their budget at £23,000. Same story is true across the city. In Acox Green it would be 23% of their budget. In Kings Heath 24%. In Northfield 24%. The Royal Town of Sutton Coldfield would be 12% of the budget. Soho Road bid it would be 24%. This is just the latest example of how the Labour Council under Sir Albert has chosen to ignore business improvement districts in recent years. Julia Chance, the manager of the Southside bid, told Scrutiny on Friday how the 2 Labour councillors appointed to the board had failed to attend a meeting in 18 months. Shame. One of those councillors is Councillor Taliali, the man responsible for introducing Labour's shoppers' tax today, and the other is from the Ladywood district. When Sir Bob Kerslake talked about the council failing to understand or do partnership properly, he may well have been talking about events such as these. Lord Mayor, local centres are vital to our communities, and they're the glue that hold an area together. This shoppers' tax will put high streets at risk across the city at a time when bids already spend 40% of their budgets funding services the council used to, like cleaning car parks in Erdington. First, the council expected them to take over council services. Then they failed to attend board meetings to offer support. Now we want to tax them for helping improve our local centres. Councillor Victoria Quinn told Scrutiny last week bids were the lifeblood of a local area and were vital for the future of the city. We agree. That's why we've chosen to scrap the shoppers' tax in our budget amendment. The message to Sir Albert is clear in this chamber. We agree with Victoria. Do you? Elsewhere in our amendment, we have chosen to reinstate the free pest control, community and major events, which will see the retention of events like St Patrick's Day, St George's Day, Chinese New Year, Eid, Vaisakhi. These events help to add to the character of our city, generating tourism and inward investment, and they should be encouraged. Flooding. Not an issue that many people would assume affects a city like Birmingham. However, if you live in Witton or Northfield or Bourneville or Selly Oak, to name but some of the areas, you know only too well that the risk of flooding to your home can be serious. That is why we would restore the savings proposed from the flood risk management budget. Many councillors in this chamber will be used to helping residents tackle unsuitable planning applications. They will feel like we do, that residents have a right to know what applications are happening, not just next door, but in their street or their neighbourhood. Sadly, Lord Mayor, residents are having that right taken away. To save just £41,000 out of a £3 billion budget, the Council is halving the already disgracefully small consultation area for planning applications, depriving residents of their chance to comment what is happening in their area. We would cancel that saving. In our amendment, we look at how further savings can be made from council departments. If you look at the Council Corporate Strategy Department, it spends over £3.5 million a year. Clearly, this is a function that should be reduced in the long term, and long before we start talking about stopping to clean our streets. That is why we have put forward a saving from this budget going forward. We've also found savings from the Communications Department. If the Council is shrinking, then so should the Communications team. We've found a reduction in the Cabinet Support team, the Equalities and European officers and trade union reps. When you are running a great city, you are judged not on how you run the city in the good times, but rather how you handle adversity. That is when you have to think outside the box to tackle the problems facing our city without hurting our city. This is the time you have to be willing to do things differently. That is why we propose in our budget that it makes sense to outsource back office functions like payroll and HR to the private sector, utilising the world-class companies in Birmingham to deliver savings for the taxpayer, and in doing so, protecting valuable services like libraries that the Council needs to deliver in-house. We should be embracing Birmingham's successful companies. They can come in and help save the Council money. We shouldn't be afraid of them. We would also bring this attitude to the advice service. Third sector organisations have long been able to provide better advice than the Council's neighbourhood offices, as they can also give free legal advice. Therefore, we would make savings while retaining the local access by passing the Council Neighbourhood Office service to third sector organisations to run. Lord Mayor, part of finding new income streams or sources is based on the choices we make. Therefore, perhaps when choosing to speak later, the Cabinet Member for Children, Families and Young People would care to talk about her choice on free nursery places when she rises to speak. Now, I agree that the Government should give children's services more money, but when money is offered, we also have to be able to take that money. The City Council was given a grant of £6 million to advertise, sign up children from deprived or vulnerable backgrounds, children living in poverty, the very children we have a moral obligation to help, for free nursery places for 2-year-olds. The key to make this work was understanding the Council needed to spend this money creating more spaces for those children to encourage the numbers through. The Council failed to do this. And by failing to do this, the Council failed to get a potential additional £27 million extra funding that could have come in free nursery places in this city. We have to be having the ability to take advantage of those opportunities. I'm sure Labour backbench councillors will be astounded to hear that figure. I'm sure you weren't told that in your weekly emergency group meetings. But this Labour Council failed to secure an additional £27 million for deprived and vulnerable children in the city by not doing it properly. To be clear, you can carry out huge safeguarding preventative work with children at age 2. Depressingly in this city, we've once again missed a chance to do that work. Perhaps the Cabinet Member, rather than resorting to "we screwed up again," could explain to the Chamber what the £6 million meant for creating additional nursery space and recruiting families to the scheme was actually spent on. Let us turn to devolution. In 2012, the Labour manifesto stated that devolution is about devolving money, not just reports. There is no mention of that in this budget book. The reality is that during their short term in office, district budgets have been lower than they were in any year under the previous Conservative Lib Dem partnership. This year, however, there is not even an attempt to claim that devolution is still the way forward. This Labour budget leaves us with an astounding mix where all power and decision making has been taken away from districts along with their budgets, as the Council has chosen to interpret the Cllr report in one way. Of course, there was another choice. Cllr said if you're going to remove all their budgets, then you may as well not have districts anymore. The key being there, if you're going to remove their budgets. This is the easy path, and that's the one Sir Albert has chosen. The harder route, of course, was not to reduce district budgets, or you could have increased them by devolving real power and budgets down from the centre to local areas, not taking in things like leisure centres like this Council has chosen to do. Sir Albert didn't choose that route. Instead, we have districts with all the management and none of the budgets or powers. Under our proposals, this would change. We would transfer the management of districts to a quadrant basis, while retaining some of the budgets and powers in members at a district level. We are protecting residents' neighbourhoods, not the council centre. Therefore, much of our amendment focuses around retaining both money and decision-making abilities to districts and wards. The proposals would see community chests continuing at £50,000, combined with a new youth community chest of £20,000, specifically for youth provision, allocated through the ward structure. This is because ward councillors are best placed to judge how the council's money should be spent in their local area. They are on the ground, not behind a desk in the centre. Retaining community chests is a key concept for us on this side of the council. This is funding that is available to all wards to decide locally on residents' priorities, and despite any claims to the contrary, Sir Bob Kerslake did not say this fund needed to be removed. Sir Albert has chosen to remove this and replace it with a community infrastructure fund, decided centrally, not at ward level, with no guaranteed level of funding per ward. I'm sure Labour backbench councillors have been told how this will be better for them, that it will be better than a locally controlled and allocated budget. But what Sir Albert might not have told you is that Community Chest ends on the 31st of March 2015 this year, but a Community Infrastructure Fund won't be provided till the 1st of April 2016. There will be no local funding available to ward councillors this year.
Shame. Shame.
Our amendment looks to set out our stall for how the city should be. As a council, we should be ensuring that residents can have pride in our communities by having pride in our city. We will see a city that grows, a city that businesses wish to invest in, a city that residents wish to remain living in. I started by talking about how today is a day of choices, and for us to set out our vision for Birmingham going forward. We are very proud of our home on this side of the chamber. I've lived in Birmingham my whole life. It's a great city, but it can be even better, and we are determined to make it better for our local residents. So in our amendment, we will be introducing new Pride in Birmingham clean-up crews to operate in each district, tackling fly tipping and litter. They'll be supported by dog and litter wardens to carry out enforcement activity in local neighbourhoods. Together, these services, for a small amount of money, will be able to provide a step change in how our streets are, how clean our streets are. We would invest in the public realm across each ward, improving existing or creating new micro-parks and public spaces. These have been shown to work in other areas like Bourneville. The reclaiming of abandoned or uncared pieces of land help encourage communities that people do care about their area. They hate people to reclaim ownership of the wider area and encourage people to invest locally. These new policy commitments would improve the quality of life for local residents and encourage companies and individuals to invest in Birmingham as a city that has pride in itself. If Birmingham is to become less reliant on government grant funding, then we must grow both our business rates and our council tax base. We grow the business rates by making this a city that companies want to invest in. If as an investor your first impression of Birmingham is litter along the main roads, and you go home with a bad back from the potholes in the road, late from the traffic chaos, will you recommend to your bosses that they invest in Birmingham? No. That is why it is vital that we keep our communities clean and well maintained and traffic flowing. Do you grow the council tax base by charging the people who do live here ever more money? No. You grow your council tax base by increasing the number of Band D and above properties in the city. This means we have to have more of those type of aspirational housing, which in turn is also the type of housing offer which attracts new businesses to our city. We should be using the legal mechanisms through planning on our land assets to realise this increase in aspirational housing. 2 years ago, we made a plea for the council to maintain services free at the point of delivery. Last year, we called on the council to take pride in Birmingham. This year, we are demanding the council makes our city better. Of course, a lot has changed since this time last year. This time last year, we heard about Labour had a grand plan for a by-election victory before the May elections. Well, those May elections can be listed as just a huge success. Sir Albert led his councillors into the elections when Labour was well ahead in the polls nationally and managed to misplace his group secretary and a cabinet member by the time the results were counted. This year, with a deputy leader defending Shard End held by under 50, a cabinet member defending a seat won by less than 100 in Selly Oak, 2 cabinet members defending seats lost in Harpont and Acox Green, it's safe to say some of the Labour group are hoping this year's budget is more successful than last. Sadly for Birmingham's residents, at least the lessons of last year here haven't been learned. The garden tax for green waste collections and the furniture tax on bulky collections remain and have been joined by the shoppers tax on our local suburban high streets. For those backbenchers thinking, but Sir Albert said he has no choice, I ask you to look at Walsall last week. Going into a budget meeting planning to shut local libraries and introduce a garden tax. Sound familiar? The Labour group took on board the concerns raised by the Conservative group. They did a deal with the Conservative group. They scrapped the garden tax. They saved residents' money and they saved local libraries. That is the choice available to councils in this chamber here today. Vote with our amendment and scrap the tax and save our libraries. Talking of tax, let's turn to council tax. And again, we have a 1.9% rise put forward by Sir Albert and the Labour Council. Again, we can see that it doesn't have to be that way. The rise will bring in 5.3 million. However, a freeze gives us a government grant of 3.4 million. Therefore, Labour are asking residents to pay the city 5.3 million more in tax to gain only 1.9 million in benefit.
Shame.
To put this another way, if you go into the bank on your way home and they said, give us £530 and we will give you £190 back, would you accept that offer? No. Sir Albert may say there is no choice but to put up council tax due to national grants, but his choice has nothing to do with reducing council budgets. When Sir Albert first ran the council back in 1999, he put up council tax by £45 in 2000, £41 in 2001, £47 in 2002, £53 in 2003. Indeed, it was only when he was unable to get a budget through on his own in 2004 that he froze council tax. All of these rises were when the grant for the council was growing each year, but it still wasn't enough for Sir Albert. Still, it was not enough to stop a Labour council closing libraries and leisure centres because of bad management during times of growing budgets. It's no surprise to see the same therefore happening now when budgets are falling. In total, over all of Sir Albert's time as leader of the council, he is responsible for increasing Birmingham's council tax for an average Band D property by over £300, or 20% of your council tax bill. Yet despite increasing council tax year after year, we have not seen any improvement in services. By 2004, the council, after 20 plus years of Labour rule, was in special measures and considered a basket case. By 2015, Sir Albert and his Labour administration have done in 3 years what took 20 last time. We have 3 independent commissioners, an improvement plan in failing services. We have cabinet members apologising because they screwed up on children's services and messed up on the garden tax. Under Sir Albert, we have had yearly council tax rises, garden taxes, furniture taxes and now shoppers' taxes, and all the time while saying he had no choice. Sir Albert will put taxes up on this city whether the budget is falling or rising. It's just what Sir Albert does at budget time. There is another choice, and I ask backbench councillors to look at our plans and help give residents some of their money back. The reality is, there is a choice to all of us councillors in this chamber. It doesn't matter which party is in government. Nationally, a Sir Albert Council will close our libraries and leisure centres, will cut our street cleaning, will leave potholes unfixed, and will increase housing rents when the HRA account has a surplus of £10 million in it. £10 million! But we'll put your rent up. That's Sir Albert's council in Birmingham. He can't be the change that this city needs. He's been the leader of the Labour Party in Birmingham for 2 decades now. Sir Albert has been leader of the council twice, and we've had the same results twice. What we could have had today was a business plan that gave a vision of hope and aspiration for our city, a budget that looked to keep our city clean, that fixed our services, that didn't accept decline as being terminal. This is what our amendment seeks to do. This is why we have gone to the effort of producing a 20-plus page amendment, because we choose to care about our city. For those councillors who weren't here before 2012, this is not something that always used to happen. When Sir Albert was leader of the opposition, he put forward alternative budgets written on half a side of A4, usually with a few million taken from reserves, something he attacked the Lib Dems for doing last year and has done this year in his own budget. Despite it being a time in the council having a larger budget, he was unable to articulate what that vision of a Labour Birmingham would be through their budget amendment. I'm not entirely sure how you would draft a budget amendment to show how you would run the city, when you would have to show an improvement plan being put upon our city, or the presence of external commissioners due to failing departments, but nonetheless he didn't even try to show us that vision. Of course, given Sir Albert thinks the leader's policy statement for the year ahead should be announced 3 months after that year's budget, it's not entirely surprising that the Labour group never put a comprehensive budget amendment forward. We have taken this process seriously because we care greatly about our home. We love Birmingham, but Birmingham is being let down. It can and should be so much better. Today is the choice we have to put that in the chamber. Today, in our amendment, we show how we can make our city better. There are always 2 choices, 2 paths to take. One is easy, and its only reward is that it's easy, or so the proverb goes. This is what faces us today. We could, as a council, take the easy course and remain on the status quo, or we can accept that harder path, the one where we accept some services can be better run by others. This path may not be as easy to accept, but it is the path that leads to the reward, being able to protect valuable frontline services like our local libraries. Lord Mayor, libraries saved, services for disabled and vulnerable people restored, council tax frozen, the shoppers tax scrapped, the garden tax scrapped, Brummies across the city helped. That is the message from this budget amendment. It is a clear choice, and this side is choosing to put hard-working Brummies first. In the coming years, Birmingham needs to change. We need the help of residents. We need to help businesses and third sector organisations alike. We need every member of this council to pull in the same direction. This amendment aims to show the city that we are on your side, that we are serious about transforming our city, that we have grander ideas than simply increasing taxes on residents or introducing new ones. Lord Mayor, all over this city people are asking, I am paying more taxes, why might my library close? I am paying more taxes, why is my road not being repaired? I am paying more taxes, why is my children's centre closing? I am paying more taxes, why do I have to pay to recycle? I am paying more taxes, why is this Labour Council trying to run my area down? The man who has been responsible for so many of these tax rises and closures and service failures in our city simply cannot be the right person to get us out of this mess. This leader of the council can never be the future, as he didn't understand what went wrong under his watch, not once but twice in the past. He has no vision for our city, Lord Mayor, no plan for improvement, only managing the decline of our great city. Nothing changing in 9 years of running this city, in denial about the serious nature of the Cllr review, no attempt to learn from the lessons of the past. Lord Mayor, our amendment would give a budget that has vision for how we want our city to be, that takes into account the consultation results and protects local services, helping to turn our city round in the years ahead. It is time this council had a radical change of direction. It is time this council had a Conservative administration to clean up the mess that Labour have left in our city. Birmingham doesn't need yet more service cuts and tax rises. Birmingham needs new leadership and values and energy to get this city going again. This is the vision we will take round this city in the next 2 months. This is the message we will take into local elections in May. I move our amendment, Lord Mayor.